Yeah, we should have Art here any minute. Just waiting for
Everybody's
him.
ready to go?
All right, I got Art should be on here. There he is.
I'm on.
Is Mr. Payne?
I'm here.
We're here. I'd like to call the Harbor Committee meeting to order. Roll call is Merrill Atherton, Peter Gott, Justin, Mr. Albee, and Arthur Payne. Anybody want to change anything on the agenda? If not, then I'll look for an approval for the minutes of January 28th.
Yeah, they look good to me, so I move that we accept them.
Do you have a second? Need a second for a motion?
Yeah, I wasn't here.
I
I wasn't
also
here.
was not present.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Albee. All those in favor? Raise
Aye.
your hand. And Peter recused because he wasn't here.
I also was not present.
Same here.
Josh?
Yeah, I wasn't there. I
Okay.
Neither was I.
So we have 3 ayes and 2 recusals. Regular business, financial reports. Anybody have any questions or comments about the financial reports?
Looks like we're in the money.
So far,
So far, so good. No major changes. Chris's report is accompanied in the packet there as well.
if there's no discussion, I take a motion to approve the financial reports as presented.
Yeah, I'll make that
To accept financial reports as presented.
second.
Motion made by Mr. Lawson, second by Art Payne to accept the financial reports as presented. Spring launch schedule. Does anybody have a copy of the spring launch schedule to look at?
Yes.
Any questions or comments about the spring launch schedule?
So nothing crazy here. Pretty much straightforward and same as the past years.
Did you build any new floats this year, or
No new floats this year,
we're good?
unfortunately. So just maintaining and launching what we have, and we've got the southern end of the ramp to haul out yet after the winter's over, and put the north side in and repair the southern ones while they're out. So other than that, everything should be on schedule as laid out here, subject to weather, of course. But
Terrific.
don't foresee any issues.
Anybody have any comments on the spring launch schedule? If not, take a motion to approve the spring launch schedule as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Welcome, Smith. Wharf House revisit, discussion on options for the Wharf House. We're still there, about 18 months later. Is the roof leaking at all, Justin?
No, I just went in it before I came to the meeting, so
So that roof is still holding, even though it's missing some shingles.
right. The library is still using it a little bit for some storage. Other than that, it's holding steady, and
Yeah.
just put on the agenda just because it's been a long time. We haven't talked about it. I know we had some plans, but of course they cost money. So
Any foreseeable grants down the road to finance a new building as we talked about?
possibly, yeah, probably looking at like a 50% match grant, like we did with the wharf. So
Any of these federal loans that are raining down, PPP loans or anything like that available for that, or?
I know Chris has got some different ones for COVID related stuff.
Okay,
But we probably can't justify the wharf house as COVID. But I mean, we could try, but
I know, it's too bad.
yeah. So Probably we can, I mean, we can look into some grants. We can look into repairing it and running it again. But of course, that has its cost as well. And I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's seen the condition inside.
Yeah.
And it's definitely gonna need a fair amount of money, but it's an investment. I mean, we could definitely fix it up next winter and run it next season and get that investment back. But or we just hold and turn and wait for some money to come through, hopefully. And
Peter, from your experience in demo buildings, do you have any ballpark figure what it would cost to take that building and give it to Worcester?
I don't. I've got no
idea.
no idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
be a
wouldn't,
nice fire department thing.
well, we've asked them and they
They
say
won't
they
do it.
don't want to do that.
too close to the water.
Well, call them after it's going.
Yeah.
You got to arrange an accident.
Yeah,
Then they haven't got any choice.
might be looking for a new harbor master after that.
Well, the only thought I have is, it is a nice, it looks so much better from the outside than
It really does.
inside.
It does.
And, the thought I had is if you ever needed an assistant harbor master, or if the town had an employee that was hurting in a situation where they were hurting for a place to live and wanted to be close by, wouldn't it be great to rent it to somebody that the town needs?
Right.
After living in there, I don't think they'd be with us long.
Well, you're looking at surfaces, I mean, just to cover all those surfaces with something that looked presentable. I mean, the plumbing could be it needs to be redone because it all froze up. So we would have new plumbing. And, it's a lot of it's about surfaces, really. It could be a hell of a nice place to live. And of course, the sliding glass doors are going to hell, I guess, unfortunately, but that's just a matter of plunking a new one in.
Right. That plumbing was all redone too, so that theoretically should be good to go.
The boiler's cooked, isn't it?
Can't answer that. It doesn't look great, but
Well, it was full of water when it ran out of fuel, so.
right. Yeah. Reeds came in and repaired everything to my knowledge. So
Oh, really?
yes.
It's shut off now?
Yeah, it's been drained out for a year.
So Mel, I mean, you looked at it pretty hard and you know how much it costs to redo. So what do you think it would cost to make assuming that the infrastructure is right, like the furnace, the roof is good, put a new sliding glass door in, what do you think it would cost to make it look presentable? And then, not fancy, no stone countertops. We're just talking about linoleum here. What do you think it would cost to make it look fine on the inside?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. If the town rents it, I think you'd want to bring it up to code. That means wiring and making sure that there's no lead in the building, making sure that the stairs were right, making sure that the handrails were good.
The stairs are sketchy.
Yeah.
Inside and out. All
My
three.
guess from 40 years of remodeling building that it would be probably 10 to 20% more to fix that up than it would be to demolish it and build something new. And then you'd have something efficient.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Is the foundation good to build on again, or is it?
It's-
No.
No, cinder block, it's pretty much junk. Been
Yeah,
piled together.
Combination of things, granite, and it's like half of it's poured and
Is there still a river flowing through the cellar there?
nope,
No, that stopped.
that stopped. Yep. So we should be good there.
I'm honestly more for ripping it down and making a spot for trailers to pull forward in and then back into the boat launch.
Well, we had a nice plan for a garage that we could put the town boat in and maybe a couple of showers and bathrooms there. I think would really bring that whole facility up to snuff if you had something like that.
Yeah, I remember when the plan was going around. I'm with Spiff on that. I can't imagine that place is worth redoing. It seems like tear it down no matter what we do, whether it's a parking lot or the building we had talked about. But I agree with Mel. I thought that was a good idea. I think it would add to the facility for sure. If we could get something rolling, like, you know, even Justice saying that maybe the grants for 50%, 50%'s better than nothing for sure.
Right.
It really helped on the dock repairs, so I feel like that's worth looking into still.
Well,
It's still a
wasn't there a Homeland Security grant that was more than 50%, Justin?
Yeah, but I don't think we don't have the asset protection in our harbor for that to qualify for it. I mean, Bar Harbor only got it because of the cruise ship.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was like, and I think it was a port security grant. I'm pretty sure. So I don't think we qualify for that, but
The Main State Ferry running from the harbor doesn't we don't really care about that kind of stuff.
probably that's pretty minimal and all, you
Yeah.
know. It's not a high value asset, and it's, you know, not a lot of people on there either. So
Has,
no
oh, yeah.
new ideas, it seems like.
Yeah.
Well,
the
do you want-
select board has talked about this before. Haven't they made some plans for it or tried to do something to it?
Basically about where we're at right now in this conversation, Larry, is
Yeah.
what we discussed before.
They've got another town-owned building they just have to figure out what to do with too, so
Yeah,
I would say their hands are full.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, should we move on to the next item on the agenda, or do we have more stuff to talk about on the wharf?
I think we're still right at about the same place. I'll look into some more grants, and yeah, that's probably about all we can do right now.
Yeah,
I just didn't want it to go to the wayside, so I figured we'd bring it up and touch base on it quick.
okay.
I just had one question. Obviously, the longer we wait, the worse shape it's in. It's going to fall down eventually if nothing's done with it. Is there like a time period when it comes down, if we were going to put a building there, that you have only so long to start something new? Or, I mean, is it worth getting rid of it? If we decide we can't use that building, having it up seems like a liability.
Right. I think the thought with the select board was keep it up until we decide to do something with it, where it's close to the water, so we don't lose that setback.
Right.
I thought there was a 1-year time period that you had to rebuild.
There might be 1 year, but
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if there was a. So
I'm
sooner or
pretty-
later, our hand will be forced when it decides to come down, probably.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing would be Peter or somebody, and I think it was an excellent thing to suggestion to find out what it would cost to take it away. I mean, if it's $10,000, that's not the end of the world, and having a parking space would be worth maybe $10,000.
right, maybe.
So do you want to make, Arthur, you want to make a motion that we ask the selectmen to get an estimate to demolish the wharf building?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'd be a little surprised that someone wouldn't come along who's done business with the town and would do it basically for free, at least an eyeball estimate that, you know,
Oh, make the
I
motion,
don't think we want to go out to bid, but an estimate. Yes.
make a motion.
I move that the selectmen attempt to get an estimate for what it would cost to take down the wharf building and level it and scrape it to the point where it could be used.
There a second?
I'd
Second it.
that.
Who's second?
Larry?
Larry.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Arthur, seconded by Larry. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Mel says yay, Josh says yay, Arthur says yay, and Larry says yay because he seconded. I don't see Larry on my screen. Did he?
He's
You get
still
that?
there. He's on mine.
Yeah,
Okay. I got blacked out for mine. So
No,
the motion's been
Peter.
made, motion's been made and passed with unanimous that we request the selectmen to solicit an estimate to remove the wharf building totally and level the grade.
Peter,
Well,
you
It wasn't unanimous, Mel, because I'm still interested in having Justin look at grants, you know, the possibility of a garage or something down there.
Well, the motion was.
I mean, I'm not,
I
No,
think
I'm not against, estimates, but I'm not,
That's all the
It's
motion
not-
is for, Peter, just the estimate, not to demolish.
It's not an either or, it's just get an idea what the price is.
Yeah,
yeah, I
Would
mean,
you-
I don't mind the price, but as far as telling them that we're looking at having it demolished, then no, I'm more looking, Justin, looking at still some grants and see what's out there for that, and,
so
yeah,
you're a nay, Peter,
I'm a nay.
a nay.
Got it.
So the next item would be LPA application. Review of the limited purpose aquaculture application for soft shell clams in Mitchell Cove and possible recommendation to Board of Selectmen.
So real quick, I did put the verbiage from the ordinance in your packet, stating how the process is to be handled for said applications. If you can remember, about 2 years ago, we implemented this in the ordinance. So we had more control about what was going on within the town waters. So basically, I got the application from Mr. Gertler, and the application is in your packet. And basically, he's applying to seed that area in Mitchell Cove. 2 small leases, 14 foot by 14 foot, with a buried predator mesh. And they will be filled as commercial. So basically, as the ordinance says, I present it to you, and you guys all review this along with me, and we make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, yay or nay. And probably, I would assume the best thing to do, Mel, if you would like to, is just run down through these key points about how this thing may affect the area, negatively or positively, and then get everybody's comments on that.
Oh,
The only question I had was the predator net. Is it ever seen at a drain low tide, and could anyone navigating get hung up on it at a low tide?
It says in the application, it says that it's buried, but there will be, I believe, 5 floats that will, obviously be floating to mark that area. And that is intertidal zone.
But in between the floats, a boat could get over it, not get the running gear hung up.
Excuse me. I'm with you right now. This is Jeff Erler speaking.
Go ahead, yeah.
The depth of water, hi, sorry to interrupt you. The depth of water would be, it's our tidal frontage. There's no boats that go through there. It would be very difficult to, I'd say at least 150 yards out. It's shallow enough that there's a rocky structure outside of us that no boat would come in. Father-in-law is pretty much clear about it. It's never been, a boat's never been in there under power, a kayak maybe. But the floats are just designed to keep the netting off the sea floor. It's not, there was only gonna be 1 float coming to the surface, which would be marking the sea farm. The floats are just to suspend the net so that the clams have the ability of breathing without getting suffocated.
Is this arrangement exposed at low tide?
It would be, yes.
It would be. How deep at high tide? Guess.
I'm still learning the depths there, 8-ish feet, maybe. I mean, because again, I'm guessing, so the tides up there are about 10 feet plus or minus. We would be 2 to 3 feet up from a dead low. An extreme low, maybe, we're an extreme high, but I would say we'd be 6 to 8 feet. But again, nothing is coming in. My father-in-law, who's been there for 20 years, he's directly across the street, Lefty Bradford, has never seen a boat by power in there.
How do you,
I'd like to say something.
could you identify yourself, please?
My name is Amos Lawrence, and I live next door. And my parents bought the house, 99 Locust Point Road in 1963. And my brother and I used to go out all the time in motorboats. And I mean, I go out there in a canoe a lot, and kayakers go through there. And I've always wanted to recognize the unique and attractive character of Locust Point and the landscape and the essential place and the scenic beauty of the area. And the shores and the waters of Mitchell Cove have a common, I want to acknowledge the scenic values of Locust Point. And I was planning to retire there, and I don't want to have to look out and see 10 toggle floats, because according to the plans here, there would be 10 toggle floats that are supporting the 14 by 14 predator nets. So I just want to ask first of all, I want to thank the Harbor Committee for having this meeting. And I just want to ask about certain points in the application, because I'm the neighbor, and I wasn't even listed on the application. The person who was listed was a deceased person, my mother. So it was only by luck that I found out about this meeting. And so I'd like to point out that maybe all the items on the application are not exactly factual, because if it has the name of a deceased 96-year-old, how can we know for sure that eagles' nests are not within 660 feet? Because often I've seen large birds of prey hunting and fishing on Mitchell Cove, and who is to say if an eagle's nest is not there? So it seems to me that it's not quite an objective assessment to have the person submitting the application state that there's not an eagle's nest. And also the eelgrass. The eelgrass, it says on the application that the eelgrass was, according to the website I went to, eelgrass is always submerged. So probably there is no eelgrass anywhere close to this proposed aqua farm. But the fact that the application says they looked in December of 2020 for the eelgrass, that means they would have had to go out in a boat in December to look for it if there's eelgrass close by. So again, this to me seems to say that there is not a totally objective facts in the application. So of course I want to respect my neighbors and to live with, I want to be happy as clams with my neighbors, but it's a responsibility to my wife and my children and my real estate values that I don't that we don't let the genie out of the bottle, that there's going to be a commercial enterprise on Mitchell Cove that, okay, it could start at 14 by 14 nets, but then what if there are, tanks for the juvenile clams and pumps to pump out the water, or vehicles going down on the beach, or if the operation proves to be successful, it could skyrocket into something else.
Can I interrupt for one quick second? This is Jeff Gertler, and I guess I am going to be your future neighbor in retirement. This is just something that I was going to do for fun. Gentleman farmer. The nets would be submerged 80% of the time. The toggles would only be seen from my beach. I plan, like you, to retire myself. And I apologize, I don't know which neighbor you are, because I was only given a list of riparian owners, my direct neighbors, by the town. So I apologize, I don't know who you are in regard to where you are next to me. But I was only planning on doing this for, it has to be listed as commercial because recreationally I'm not allowed. So it's more about just the wording and how I have to apply. If I'm growing 5,000 clams and someone wants to buy some, sure, it allows me the ability to. It's not really my plan to make a commercial. There would be no upwellers. There's no tanks. I am not going to go into to create a business at borderline 60 years old. It's a project for fun. It's a project to play with an environment.
Trustee's son-in-law doing commercial clamming.
Excuse me, Miss Adams?
Next.
Is that your name, Jane Adams?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to identify who's speaking. So you're Jane Adams?
I
Are you
am
in a-
speaking.
Are you in a
And
butter?
I oppose it just on the scenic value of Locust Point and how many people enjoy walking along that beach at Mitchell Cove.
Are you in a butter?
I'm not in a butter, I'm across the street.
Across the street. Jane Adams, okay? And the first gentleman spoke. Could you tell me how you spell your name, please?
My name is Amos, A-M-O-S, Lawrence, L-A-W-R-E-N-C-E. I'm the son of Susanna Jones and Charles Jones,
Ah, okay.
and she passed away on September 27th. And so that is probably why the town still has it listed under her name.
Yeah, we just have box 77 for Jones, but
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'd like to point out to Mr. Girder that I can see the entire cove from my house, from 99 Locust Point Road, my residence. I can see the entire cove. So the impact of the aesthetic impact would be astronomical for me to see. It's, as it says in the application, there would be a year-round operation. To see those toggle floats and to see the thing at low tide, it would be you know, for example, my parents once they put a log supported by 2 stones on the beach as a bench to sit on, and the Maine Heritage Coastal Society told them to take it down because they said it affected the aesthetics of the Maine coast. So I think it, for just a log to be on the beach to be objectionable, how much more objectionable it would be to see, you know, toggle floats, 10 of them, and this, you know, apparatus 150 yards out in the ocean at low tide. I respectfully and I vote that we don't have a aqua farm on Mitchell Cove.
thank you, Amos and Jane. I should tell you that this is probably the first of many steps for this application to proceed. The Harbor Committee is mostly concerned with the navigable waters. And I'm not quite sure why we're dealing with this here, other than just to see if there is any strong objection. And I can see that there is some objection. We do not.
I'm Roscoe Ingalls.
We
Yeah,
don't-
I've got the west side of Mitchell Cove as part of our family's property, and I do have a view of that entire east side. And I'm rather opposed to it too. I don't want to see a commercial enterprise get started that escalates and gets completely out of control. Thank you for hearing me.
Could you spell your name for me, please?
Ingalls. Ingalls. Roscoe. R-O-S-C-O-E.
Thank you, Roscoe.
Thank you.
Again, we don't make any final decisions on this. The Harbor Committee is mostly, again, concerned with the waters and make sure that it's not in the way of navigable procedures in the waters. After this, it would go, I'm sure, to Bureau of Submerged Lands. You might even have to go with the Indian, see if there's any artifacts in the area. So we're mostly concerned where it's located as far as boat traffic goes. And as I see the map, it's about 300 feet off the shore on land that's exposed at low tide. Am I correct?
May I speak for just a second, please?
Sure. Could you tell me your name, please?
Yeah, it's Richard Prudhomme. It's P-R-U-D-H-O-M-M-E. I'd like first just to register my opposition to. I'm a more or less in a butter. I live right down the road, and in fact, until recently, was a co-owner of the property off which this particular license would be cited, and actually retain an access easement along that very property. I wasn't clear. I don't think the application specified the license site's relationship to either the mean high tide or the low tide? Do we have any clarity on that?
It's in between the low tide and the high tide, this location. Is that your question?
But it's just in between. We don't know how far out. The tidal flow in Mitchell Cove is enormous in terms of the exposure of the bottom of the cove. There are times when it virtually drains to empty. And it's quite obvious to anyone who's spent decades there that this apparatus would be almost entirely exposed most of the time, except at the highest tides.
I just want to listen.
So that's, I mean, I think that's just one point. I think the other point though is,
Can I
I
just,
don't,
on that one point, the river that flows out right by there, you're saying that river will affect these mats somehow?
the river, I'm not sure about the river, but the
There's an
entire,
inlet there that at high tide, you can take a boat and go in there inside the marsh. There's a rock there. When the tide goes out, are you saying that the wash from that area, that wetland, will wash over these clam mats?
oh, from the wetland, from the marsh right along the Locust Point Road there?
Yes, according to the map, it's to the side of that quite a bit by 1,000 feet, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't know where if the water from the marsh would actually
Wash
flow
over.
over the bed.
Okay,
What I'm saying is that the exposure of the apparatus at low tide would regularly, almost always, expose the whole thing. It would just be
Yes,
sitting out there to plain view. It would be an impediment to any kind of walking or anything. Also, I do have one just point of clarification. Is the concern with navigation limited to power boats? It's my understanding in the regulations that that's not specified in any way. So that, you know, canoeing, rowboating, fishing off of canoes, fishing off of rowboats, sailing, all of which happens continuously in there, especially during the summer, would potentially be affected, and all comes under the heading of navigation.
it's my understanding that, no, it's not limited to just motorboats.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Justin Seavey is the harbor master, and he's the one that calls the shots on the waters of the town of Tremont. And if it's anywhere interfering with navigation of anything from a kayak to a powerboat, I think he would be concerned about it.
Yes, especially the further out, if as was represented, the beds would be continuously or at high tide 6 to 8 feet deep, that would have to be considerably far out since the cove is so shallow all the way to its deepest point. It would have to be right smack in the middle of the cove is what it sounds like, which would be another obvious impediment to any kind of navigation by small craft, unpowered craft. Would get in the way of any kind of recreational fishing, walking, which...
Richard, excuse me again, if
Yeah.
you don't mind interruption. Since you know the land, the site that we're picking is the large rock. There's basically, you can call it that sand mud. So as it's rocky goes out, then it becomes more of a mud flat, which is pretty much directly adjacent to where that large rock is. That is the site that we were picking on putting it.
Right, I think that's right in the middle of everything is the problem.
It's not directly in the middle.
I had a question real quick for Justin. Justin, you remember, I don't know, a year ago, maybe two now, we had a little thing about making a clam council. And I remember in that, the state of Maine saying we needed more testing. All the flats in the town of Tremont are closed, with I believe the exception of Mitchell Cove. Is that, am I remember that correctly?
Yeah, there's a couple of different coves that are open.
Open now, because I remember she said we needed more testing. So one of my concerns was one of the only places that the people of town can go dig clams was Mitchell Cove. I have used it. Are we giving away? I mean, he's saying it's commercial because he has to word it that way, but also saying it's for his private clam enterprise. I mean, is it worth considering that? I mean, I know it's not the harbor committee's problem, but I feel like it's worth mentioning as a citizen of the town that that is a place that people use, and I don't know if it should be given exclusive rights to one person.
Right.
Like I said, I know that's not my harbor committee opinion. I don't know that a couple toggle floats in Mitchell Cove are going to create a hazard to navigation of kayaks, but that was just one thing that popped into my mind, that
Right.
was one of the places that people could go and do that in town. So
Well, it is,
Again, if I can make a comment on that.
sure.
So it's 400 square. And
Yes, I saw the plan. I understand that.
that being said, you know, and when we've been there basically, you know, we're still doing some initial clearing right now. People come across our lot and we'll go out there with clam hoe and buckets and go clamming. They're more going towards the angle side. And again, that whole thing about if he's fine with people digging up his beach, I don't see there's a big difference between ours. All the LPA does for us is basically protected by law, so that people just, if I'm seeding that section, it would technically be for ourselves, or if we wanted to share with, you know, neighbors or others. But it allows others from directly walking in and doing that. But as it was told to me by the Maine Division of Resources, if someone wants to shellfish 1 inch off that, they are legally allowed to. They're just not allowed to move 1 inch in. So it just protects our investment of the clams that we'd be seeding. That said, if we're seeding clams naturally reproduce, we could actually be benefiting the cove by creating a new population for the town.
Can I ask you a question, Russell? This is an early step in your permit process. Could you tell the board what the other steps are that you will be going through?
This is basically the step. Already spoke with a hatchery, basically buying my seed, laying the seed, and the nets just keep the crabs off of them, basically just to protect them when they're young, so that they have a chance to grow. The king crab. So we were going to do a combination of hard shell, cohogs, and soft shell. Soft shells are prone to predation throughout their life from the green crabs, and hard shells in their youth are more prone to it. Once they grow to a certain size, they wouldn't need the net anymore. Only the LPA to basically make it illegal for any individual other than ourselves to clam on it.
So you don't need to go to any kind of Bureau of Land Management, the Army Corps, to put anything
Goes to the
in the
state.
water?
Once it goes to the state, they share it with the Army Corps. It's an automatic that they go through you. And all we would be basically using the net in the clams and using the net to cover them, to protect them. Other than that, there's nothing to do with harvesting. There's no, I am not going to become a hatchery. There's going to be no upwellers. There's no other equipment to be used other than a clam hole.
Well, I think if you fill out the application for commercial, it is in fact, it is a commercial. Whether or not you sell the product or not, that's up to you. But it is a commercial application.
Right. I mean, it could go recreational. You know, it just one is just, yeah. Legally, it's easy in case, you know, like I said, claims, what do we do with them? So if we wanted to sell them, we could. Not our intention. If people would be more comfortable being recreational, that's fine too.
Thank
Well,
you.
I have a question. If you were just to use this recreationally, and if you felt pressure from neighbors, why wouldn't, is there anything legally that disallows you from buying seed and as a citizen seeding the clam flowers?
That's where the LP comes in. As a citizen, yes, I could buy seed. As a citizen, yes, I could seed my beach. The LPA only protects others from farming that. So if I plant it, it's open to whoever can get to it, is legally allowed to harvest from that. The LPA only for individuals, the assistants, be the only people. So the LPA only designed to protect our investment. If I'm spending personal money to seed the clams, it's just allowing me, the individual, to harvest them versus anyone who can walk in. Technically, people walking off the street. It's illegally trespassing, if you want to put it that way. If they come in by boat, it's legal. Unless they have permission from a landowner, they don't have legal access to it. But it doesn't stop them from clamming there.
Well, I just want to say anecdotally that I have a friend who lives in Chappaquiddick Island, which is near Edgartown, Massachusetts. And there's a pond called Caleb Pond.
Yeah.
And he's wealthy. He started CVS store, so he's got a little money. And he seeds, and the neighbors love him for it. But it doesn't affect their property values because you don't see a thing. He's seeding quahogs, but you wouldn't know. So in fact, I think it's more of a visual concern, perhaps with property values, which happens quite often with aquaculture. It's too bad that the toggles are seen, and I don't know if the net is colored in such a way that it might blend in with the bottom. Oftentimes, it's an aesthetic concern of neighbors having to do with property values as much as it is anything else. Otherwise, you could just volunteer to seed the place and everyone would be happy, including me. I'd be right down there.
Sadly, like they wouldn't be happy anyway, so unfortunately.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Russell? On your screen, it says Jeff Cartier. That's not you. You're Russell Bradford.
No. So I'm Jeff Gertler. My father-in-law is Russell Bradford, Rusty Bradford. So he knows all of the people who are speaking. He's been on Local Point for 20 years.
So what is your name?
Jeff Gertler. So I was going to apply.
Could you spell that, please?
Gertler.
Thank you.
So yeah, and as of right now, my father-in-law is going to be the LPA applicant. I would be his first assistant. Where it's our land, but as a resident, it made more sense for him to be. He's there 9 of 12 months. It's easier for him to look after it than ourselves from Mass until our goal is to be up there full time within the next 3 years or so. But until that time, we figured it might be easier to have be the applicant. Russell, my father-in-law.
I have a hypothetical question. Since your father-in-law, Mr. Bradford, is on the other side, what would be the objection to starting it on the other side?
It's closed to it's basically that whole side is closed to shellfish.
Yeah. So if you're just doing it for your own fun, why do you need so many? 14 by 14 that's quite a lot of clams.
That's just the legal size. An LPA is 400 square. I could have gone for a full aquaculture, which would be or more. As I said, this is the smallest possible way to have fun. 400 square feet is pretty small.
Any other questions or comments on the LPA application?
Yeah, I appreciate all the comments. It seems like a good coverage of what's at stake. I would just point out that the previous reference to local residents' kind of informal use of the cove for clamming is a very real issue. And I believe would fall under the regulations covering other uses. It's a pretty broad term, but it covers everything, including, everything up to recreational activity, various kinds of boating. And I assume it would also cover kind of informal clamming by local residents. So rather than that being a kind of ancillary activity, I think it's probably that kind of thing would fall under, more or less a protected kind of activity.
Thank you. Any other comments from non-board members? Well, I think the best thing to do is close this for public comment at this point and just deal with the Harbor Committee members themselves and ask them, do they have any questions for anybody here?
I have a question for Justin, I guess. I guess what we're looking at here is navigational problems with the lease site. Do you being the harbor master feel like 10 toggles in Mitchell Cove is a navigation hazard to kayaks or whatnot? Because that's the question here, right? Where this is
right. I mean, for kayaks and paddle boats and that kind of thing, I don't think it would be any sort of navigation hazard at all.
I agree. I don't see where that would be a big deal.
For motorboats and stuff, I don't see sailboats in that area really, but there has been motorboats in there traditionally. But I mean, they're coming, from a sea of lobster gear.
Yes, they are. A lot
So,
of
I
them.
mean, it's not much different. Basically, my only main concern is where it is intertidal. You're definitely going to see it on the beach when it's, most of the time.
Yep.
So, but I believe we should just follow down through this list here that we put all this time in doing in the ordinance, and it basically just goes over navigation, and then we can give a yes or no, or the board can give a yes or no based on these key points that are all 100% legal and been verified by the lawyer. So,
Okay.
Mel, do you have that handout in your packet?
I'm going through it now. I'm looking for the 8 things that you just spoke of. Got page 10. Is that page 10 you're referring to?
It's just before the actual application in the packet. It starts out limited purpose aquaculture. It's the
Section
key
G.
verbiage from our ordinance.
This is a handout before that.
Correct.
I got you. So you say like such determinations by the Harbor Committee shall be made by asking questions including but not limited to the following that.
Correct.
How might this proposal affect navigation within the area? Well, we've heard from that and that it wouldn't affect that much other than a powerboat. Is that correct?
Correct.
Sure. Second item was, are there any permitted moorings within the boundary of this proposed site? Justin, I think you probably know the best of that.
Right. The only mooring over there is Roscoe's, and it's not close to this area.
Okay. How might this proposed lease affect traditional storm anchorages? Anybody anchor there in a storm?
Due to the depth of water and the lease location, I highly doubt anybody would seek refuge within the intertidal zone in that harbor, or that cove, for any storm anchorages.
Thank you. How might this proposal affect the ability of any riparian owner located within 1,000 feet of the proposed lease to get to and from their property?
It doesn't really state the means of transportation, but 14 by 28 foot. I mean, I doubt that anybody's going to have any problem walking around that realistically.
Widest line is 28 feet. What is the extent and type of commercial and recreational fishing within the proposed lease? They're mostly just private clamming, isn't it?
Clamming, there may be some green crab fishery there. Nobody does it currently, but there could be some of that in the future.
Really, they're talking about harvesting green crab?
They have for years, since it's a problem, just trying to find something to do with them. But you can actually buy a commercial license to harvest green crab.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you. But other than that, there's no other fishery in that area.
Well,
Clamming, hand clamming.
Yeah.
I mean, clamming is recreational fishing there, right? I mean, that must fall under there. Yeah. So I know people do that there.
Yep.
Is the mooring gear specified in the application adequate and appropriate? If not, the applicant will be asked to explain. I don't think that's an issue, is it?
No, there's really not anything to moor. I mean, the nets, he says, is going to be buried. Maybe a tidal surge or a storm surge would interrupt that and rip the net out of just from being buried, because it doesn't say that they're anchored in any way.
Excuse me.
Amos, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. It seems to me that the nets are not buried. The nets are anchored down, but they're not buried.
Correct. Just the edge, the outside perimeter of the nets are anchored, the rest are exposed, correct?
What about children? You know, the Wilmerding's property on the other side, they often go out in their motorboat, and I've seen them many times go out in their motorboat, and often children walk out to that rock that Mr. Girder mentioned. At low tide, a lot of people walk out to that rock, so especially children. So
Okay. We only have one more question on this thing, Matt,
Right.
if you can continue with that so we can get this out of the way.
How might the proposed lease affect any local, state, or federally owned beaches, parks, docking facilities with 1,000 feet of the proposed area?
And as Mr. Amos just said, that's what he was referring to, walking around it or walking on it and being in that area.
I thought it said federal. Didn't
Well-
well,
It said local, state, or federal. The local is one of the criteria, right?
okay.
So that's it. Any more comments? Well, it looks like we're ready to take a vote to issue a recommendation of approval or disapproval to the Board of Selectmen. Again, this is a recommendation to the board. What say you? Anybody care to make a motion for approval or disapproval, one way or the other? Don't be shy.
I'll make a motion for disapproval just because I believe it's a place that people use in town, and I don't feel that it's right to give out leases on those traditional places to a single guy. He's not creating a business. He said that it's just to play with. I just don't agree with it. So I think that that's a genuine concern there. Justin said there are more places open now. In the past, that's been the only place in town that's safe to dig clams for people. And I've used it, and since I was a kid, I know what people do, and that's just how I feel about it.
So Josh made a motion to disapprove the application as received. Is there a second?
I'll second that, and I'll state the reason why, and that is that if all of the neighbors who have spoken up tonight put a 14 by 28 foot plot down, some of us who love clams and love to dig them might be out of luck. And so on that basis, if all the riparian owners did this, it would limit the rest of us to be able to dig clams there.
So
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? So it's time for a vote. What say you? I think Josh is a yay to disapprove. Again, a yay is to disapprove. Art Payne,
Disapprove.
disapprove. Who's next on here? Peter Albee,
I vote,
you vote to
I don't disapprove. No,
You approve?
Yeah.
Okay. Peter Gott,
I don't know. I don't think, to me, that there's enough information really to weigh. I mean, in order to put a vote in, I got to have more info, I guess, and more looking at it. I mean, I
so you'd be a
probably
disapprove-
abstain. I had no.
Abstain.
Well, I'd go abstain.
You gotta make up
I'd like to
your
see
mind.
some more information, both sides. Got to make up my mind now?
Well,
Or
that-
I'll
that's-
abstain from,
that's what the issue, we gotta vote on the motion, Peter, to disapprove or approve.
Well, I have to say that if abstaining is an option for more information, then obviously many of us would abstain. When you give it as a yay or a nay, for the reasons stated, I had to say yay in this particular.
Well, I'm following a prescribed menu in front of me, and what they want is a recommendation for approval or disapproval to the Board of Selectmen. We can table it and look for more information. I don't know what that information would be that you're looking at, but if that's what the board decides, that's what we'll go.
Well, it seems a little extreme to me that the Harbor Committee, which is mostly concerned with navigation, is in a position to do something which is more along the lines of code enforcement in a town than anything that we're used to doing. And if we could make a motion that would make Mr. Gertler lose any chance of having what he wants. And I don't know, I have to agree with Peter. I don't think we're well informed enough. We're concerned with those 10 items, but the only one that really held sway here was navigation. And I think a kayak could push a toggle out of the way pretty easily. So, you know.
I mean, and that's my point. You know, looking at what we're supposed to go on, you know, I don't know that there's anything there that we can, you know, disapprove it from. But as Josh Lawson says, you know, it is one of the few places that we can clam and stuff if we can get down to it and everything. But, you know, I was in around there last year, mackerel fishing or whatever, and, you know, I was outside of it some, but I mean, looking at the amount of lobster boys and everything outside, I mean, I just, you know, I'd like to see, you know, some better pictures, idea of what the area is exactly. And, you know, I don't want to take and, you know, shoot it down with what information I got, but I really don't see that I can prove it either. So I'm just saying that, you know, before I kick it to the curb, I'd like to see, you know, a little better information on it.
All right, so I have so far Justin to disapprove, Al Payne, Art Payne to pretty much vote present or abstain, Albie to approve, Peter Gott to vote present or abstain, and I'll vote to deny. So there's 2 deny, 1 approve, and 3 abstain.
Now is Spiff?
I have not voted yet.
Okay.
Spiff finally saw it.
Well,
What do you say?
I've went in my own mind. I've went both ways on this, honestly. It was kind of a problem to me that it is recreational, and I was all for it when it was commercial. But on the other hand, there is still things to be gained, even though it's recreational. There's extra spat generated, and there's just information on whether or not something like this would work for people in the future. And based on that, and the fact that I don't see, other than a visual problem, I don't see a negative part to it. People can walk around it. People can boat around it. So I would say let the man do it.
So you vote approve.
Yes.
So you have 2 deny, 2 approve. For deadlock.
So where's that leave us, Justin?
We
Does
can leave
anybody-
it. We can leave it as is with that, and we can send it to the board of selectmen and say we couldn't come to a solid plan. Here's why. We've done. Jeff here has done everything that we've asked him to in regarding to the ordinance. I mean, he gave us the full state application, and that's all the information that I asked for. And unfortunately, it is pretty vague. Basically, you know, a picture of a chart and with an X on it. I mean, it doesn't have to, the state doesn't require, you know, high def pictures of the area, which would have been nice. But I mean, I guess that's on us to, you know, inspect that area more. And unfortunately, we don't have a shellfish committee or anything of that importance here in the town to handle these kind of things. So it does fall on you guys. But we can bring it to the selectmen and say, this is, you know, this is what we came up with after a lot of discussion, a lot of input from residents. And we find, you know, it's going to take away from the clamming a little bit. We don't think navigation is going to be a real issue. And based on these points that we put in the ordinance, you know, this is how we feel about it. And then everybody can speak their piece at that meeting as well, just the same as tonight, and they can make the official decision.
Yep.
So that's what we'll forward to the selectmen. No decision from the harbor committee.
I approve that.
I think that a better way to say it, other than no decision, was it was a split decision.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
They'll have the vote available to them in the minutes when we put that together.
So, and that will most likely be on the next Board of Selectmen agenda. So everybody that's on and listening are definitely encouraged to attend that meeting.
Justin, when is it scheduled to go to the DMR?
It has to get through the Harbor Committee and the Board of Selectmen first.
Do
So-
they always go by the recommendation from the town and the harbor committee and the select board?
Not always, but they weigh in pretty heavy on the harbor master decision, the signature, and that's what we're really, trying to get here. I mean, they don't have Marine Patrol out checking these spots or anything. It's really,
No.
unfortunately, it's on everybody's shellfish committee and harbor master in every different harbor.
Yeah, and there's a lot of these LPAs now that people are trying to do, and we have one up in Seal Cove.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why we came up with all the verbiage in the ordinance to help with these things.
So Justin, you'll report to the selectmen and tell them that of what the vote count was and what the decision made?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's our decision. I'd like to thank everybody who came to the meeting. Appreciate your input. And again, these meetings are 5 o'clock last Thursday of every month, and the public is always invited to attend.
We have one more agenda item, Mel, too.
Oh, I know that. I'm just,
Okay. Just making sure.
okay.
Justin wants his bragging rights.
No bragging rights here.
LPA application to the new mooring list.
Yep. So the new mooring list in your packet.
I got a quick question before you start. Could you
Sure.
tell me what the color code is between the green, yellow, and red?
The green is approved. The yellow was approved the previous year, and red is removed from the list on the working copy.
Thank you. What was the yellow again?
That was last year's. Those two.
Okay.
And then obviously there's the clean copy, which has the red removed, the yellow removed, and just the green that was authorized for this year.
Okay.
So as you can see, we're up to 2013 now. So we're gaining. Typically tell everybody about 8 years if you want a mooring in Bass Harbor. So
8 years.
Not many people falling off of it. I just sent out the bills yesterday. So we'll see if everybody pays their bills. It's there. But, nothing real crazy this year. So giving out plenty of the last few years. Just harbor's full.
Well, my compliments again, and a great job with this mooring list. Years ago, that was quite an issue. Now it's much more in control. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody have any questions on the mooring list?
Well, so Grant Hughes has been at the top many times. What are his intentions at this point?
I should hear back from him in a couple of days. I know he laid on Carlton's float last year, so. But I have Gibby Dow is going to give up his mooring, so I got a place to put him up the harbor.
But he won't. He may not take it because hasn't he been in a position?
Right. Yeah, he's passed it up a couple of different times.
Yeah.
So, but there's nothing in the ordinance that says he can't do that.
Right. And Carlton is looking for an additional float?
No, he got one last year, and it was additional. Yeah. It's over by Bobby Lee float. It's over in that area.
But it's in B.
In B. Yep.
Any issues in the harbor master? No, mooring list. Are we ready to go to the harbor master's report?
If I can get a,
You want
yes,
a motion to approve?
motion. Yes, please.
Take a motion to approve the new mooring list as presented.
Yeah, so moved.
Moved
I
by Art,
second it.
seconded by Josh, was that?
Yep.
Moved and second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Was that unanimous?
Yeah,
No nays. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready, Josh. I mean, Justin.
All right. Pretty short month here. Had a few days off and been enjoying the winter, but worked with Jeff here on this resident LPA. A fair amount of work there. I did get a quote from Seabridge Marine to repair the eastern ramp, decking and non-skid and new bearings and the connection at the top of the ramp as well. Needs to be done sometime in the near future. Probably see that at the next meeting on the budget. I did budget for it for next year, but I believe it's going to come sooner than that. So it'll be probably around, well, hopefully under $3,000. Already started ordering parts, materials for float repairs, just where things are so behind this year about getting things. Then I'll be stocked up and ready for that as soon as the weather breaks. I got a couple different quotes on a new boat trailer for the town boat. Ours is not that great. It's hard to put it on by yourself. And as you guys know, I do pretty much alone. So I did complete the annual report for the town report. Did the new mooring list, updated the weight copies, made the new mooring letter, the annual mooring letter. I got all the mooring bills out yesterday. There was 230 of those I did. Couple different meetings with residents, lots of plowing, a lot of sanding, and that's about it really. It's been pretty quiet on the waterfront, so nothing really crazy to report, which is good.
That's a good thing. Any questions or comments for the harbor master on his report? Take a vote to accept it as presented. Somebody make a motion?
So moved.
Josh
Second.
moved, seconded by Art. All those in favor?
aye.
I think it's unanimous. Anybody want to have any items for the agenda next month, if we want to have one next month?
What do we got to do to talk about having it in person? I mean, the numbers are down. Everybody's wearing their mask.
I don't want to meet in person, Peter.
Okay. You don't like me?
Okay,
But that's solely the chairman's call.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
I might have something from the task force, the comprehensive plan task force that I
Yep.
want to put on the agenda.
All right.
So I'd let you know, like on Friday of the week before. We have the meeting the Thursday before.
I think that gives them enough time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, if they're going to want a lot of input from our harbor committee, so if sometime you would read the 2011 comprehensive plan, it's just part 1 and section G. It's to do with the harbor. And kind of familiarize with your with the plan.
I think that's online, isn't it?
Yeah, it's online. Yeah, and the map too. You can see online. Yeah.
And what section was that again? Sorry.
Section G, page 38.
Section G is in George, number 38.
Yep.
And that'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. which
Yeah,
would be,
I think so. We didn't, the last meeting we had, it wasn't notified right, so the Zoom site wasn't right, so we really couldn't have a meeting, so. But next time, I think they'll give us some guidance on what we gotta do. So I just wanted to have a
okay.
heads up so we can get started. I'm not sure what that is yet.
As I look at the calendar, the last Thursday in March is the 26th. Should we set that one for the next meeting?
The 25th, right?
25.
25.
5, yep.
Same time, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, Larry, just give me a call or stop by the office and let me know.
Okay.
What material you want me to, or agenda item so I can get it on there.
Yep.
And for Art on the, to sign in on the Zoom, if you have the Zoom app, you just punch in the number, meeting number that is on the email that Justin sends out. And then you type in the password and you get in the meeting.
Roger Dodger.
Okay,
He likes a special invite.
Yeah, don't feel bad, Art. I had my wife set me up. 'cause I didn't-
Yeah. I had a little trouble too, but I'm used to the link. That's
Me
easy.
too.
Yeah.
I'm used to.
any other questions or comments? You can take a motion to adjourn from somebody.
Second,
Yep.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor? Another unanimous.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Justin.
No problem. Anytime.
how the hell do you hang this thing up?
There it is. Leave meeting.
I'll give you a hand. Should be a leave button.
Oh, leave. Yep. Oh, you gotta click on it.